Guys, moving right along, let's start a new composition. So I'm going to say composition, new composition. And this one's going to be my first name, last name, underscore, and this one's going to be called position. Learn how to animate the position and scale of an object, then today's date. And it should be the same setting, so same width and height, preset, same frame rate. And this time it's still going to be 5 seconds here. And again, the background color doesn't really matter because we're going to be importing a background. So I'm going to hit OK for a new composition. I'm going to double click the project bin over here, and I'm going to import 2 new graphics, one called field and B. So I'm going to import both of those. I'm going to click and drag the field down to the timeline to add it here, and then I'm going to click and drag the B on top, and we're going to animate this B. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So he's a little bit bigger. So what I want to do is this time I actually want to animate the B so he's off frame stage right, and he's going to come in, and then he's going to go off stage left here. I'm going to start him off over here, and I'm going to select the B layer and hit P for position because I want to animate the position. So I want it to start off stage left, and we're on frame 1. The CTI is on frame 1. So I'm going to hit position, and then I can again animate this by either clicking and dragging the XY coordinates of the position of the B, or I could use my selection tool to click and drag where I want it to start. So I want it to start off stage, and then I'm going to move to the 1 second mark, and then I'm going to have it move to this first flower here, go to the second frame, and I'm going to move it to, now I'm accidentally selecting the squares around it, so that's why sometimes it's helpful to actually use the position coordinates here instead of actually using the selection tool. Otherwise I could zoom in and make it, so that's why I'm not zoomed all the way out because he's such a small asset to work with. And I'm going to say fit now, and I'm going to move to the 3 second mark, and I'm going to move him again to this next flower and up a little bit, and then to the 4 second mark, another flower right here, and then finally 5 second mark, and I'm going to move them off stage left. Okay, so I'm going to hit the space bar to render the scene so it turns all green, and it will also play. Okay, so it already looks like a real bee, right, coming in. Okay, now the thing is that not only do I want it to change positions, but I actually want it to look like it's getting closer and farther away from me. So I'm also going to be animating the scale of the position. So I'm going to select the B again, and I'm going to hit S for scale, and I'm going to start at frame 1, make sure the CT is at frame 1, and hit the stopwatch to animate scale. So here I want it to be normal, but when it gets to 1, I want to increase the scale of the B so it looks like it's getting closer to me. I'm going to move to the second mark, and I want it to get smaller again so it looks like it's farther away. I'm going to go to 3, and I want it to get bigger again. And then the 4, make sure it looks like it's getting smaller again. And then leave that way. So again, I'm going to hit the space bar to render it and play the animation. Now we can see that the bee not only looks like it's changing positions, but it also looks like it's getting closer and farther away from me as it's going across the stage. Now the last thing I want to do, it might seem really daunting, we're going to do our first coding, but it's something really easy we could do, and I want to make this animation just a little bit more lifelike. And something that happens with a bee is that it's vibrating a little bit, right? It's buzzing. So I want to actually create that. So I want to go back to animating my position. So I'm going to select the B layer again and hit P for position. And here I want to get to some more attributes, and I want to get to something called expressions. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key. So it's near your space bar. If I look over to the left, we're going to see an Alt Option key. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and select the position stopwatch. And when I do that, we're going to see all this stuff happen. But the reason I want to see all this is that I could add a little bit of coding here. So we can see that there's some coding that says transform.position. I'm going to give you the coding for this one that I want you to type in instead. And all you have to do is say wiggle. So we're coding in that we want this thing to wiggle as it's animating. And I'm going to wiggle it 4 by 10, which means that I want it to wiggle in position in XY coordinates 4 to 10 position over and over and over again as it's animating. So it's saying, oh, it turns black and then this turns red. It just wants you to refresh. So now that I've added my coding, when I render again, I'm going to bring this back to the current time indicator, to the frame 1. And when I hit spacebar, it's going to render. It might take a little bit longer because you've just coded an entire sequence that you want it to wiggle the entire time. When I hit the spacebar, it's going to render. And now we can see that it's wiggling, like vibrating, as it's moving across the stage. So it looks a little bit more natural. So we'll use wiggle again, and there's a lot of other expressions that you can code in and add to your animation. So we're done with this guy. So we're going to go back to composition and add to render queue. I did this correctly, so I'm going to go to output 2, pick the blue link, and we can see that I named it correctly. Otherwise, this is where you'd name it. It's still saving to my video motion graphics file on my desktop. So that's exactly what I want. It's an MOV file, and say save. I'm going to hit render, and we're going to see this blue line say that it's rendering each of the frames. And then I'm just going to double check again that in my video folder, in my video motion graphics folder, I should now have a file that says position and scale. And this should be the bee I just animated. Yay! All right, we're all done with this one.